Hey everybody, welcome to Crazy Tech Lab, and I've got an awesome video for you today because we are going to be reviewing the RTX 4070 Founders Edition. So the RTX 4070 is launching today, or at least reviews are going live today from all your favorite outlets, including here at Crazy Tech Lab. I'm grateful for the fact that you've chosen me for your RTX 4070 review. And today we are going to be looking at this $600, around £530 graphics card, obviously the cheapest RTX 40 series card to have launched so far. Also the smallest. This card is pretty small. It's no bigger than an RTX 3070, so it's going to fit in a lot of mini-ITX cases, small form factor cases out there, and it's very power frugal as well. So potentially a great card for mini-ITX systems, especially if we get some smaller single fan models as well. So today we are going to be pitching it against some very stiff competition, namely the RTX 3080, which NVIDIA itself has said performs similarly to this card. Also its predecessor, the RTX 3070, which obviously you want to see how progress has been made from one generation to another. And another similarly priced graphics card, the RX 6800 XT from AMD, plus a whole bunch of other cards at both 1080p, 1440p and 4K with DLSS and ray tracing enabled and disabled to see whether or not this card is worth your cash. First though, a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor today is scdkey.com, where right now you can get great deals on software such as Windows 10, Windows 11 and Microsoft Office. And even better is I've got a 25% discount code to share with you guys. Windows 10 Professional, for example, which is fully upgradable for free to Windows 11. All you have to do is click Buy Now, enter the code CRT25 into the promotion code box, click Apply, and the US price will drop from $22.09 down to just $16.57, and in the UK, you'll see the price fall to just £12.79. Once you've paid, head over to your order page, click the Get Key button, and copy your Windows key code. When you're in Windows, you want to move your mouse over to the Start button, right-click, go to Settings, then Update and Security, and then move up to Activation, and finally click on Change Your Product Key, copy and paste your brand new product key into the box, click Next, then click Activate, and your Windows 10 installation is now activated. You can do the exact same thing with Office 2021 Professional, CRT 25, click Apply, and you will see a hefty discount. Thanks again to SCDKey for sponsoring today's video. So we have a very small and very power frugal graphics card which promises RTX 3080 beating performance, and something that will probably give AMD a run for its money as well. So first though, we should take a look at the specifications, and if I get my paper of doom here with all the specifications on here, compared to the 4070 Ti, which is a $200 more expensive graphics card, so it's a fair bit more expensive, quite a big price gap there. The 4070 Ti has a much higher boost frequency, 2.6 GHz versus just under 2.5 for the RTX 4070. It has far more CUDA cores, it has way more Tensor cores, more RT cores, and it has more ROPs. However, it does have the same memory bus at 192-bit. It also has the same 12 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory. However, the 4070 Ti also has a much larger L2 cache. So the L2 cache size has been massively increased over the 30 series cards. The 4070 Ti offers nearly 50 megabytes, 49 megabytes to be specific. But the 4070 only has 36, so 36 versus 49 is quite a significant difference. The other thing to make note of is the TDP. So the RTX 4070 Ti has a maximum board power of 285 watts, whereas the 4070 is just 200 watts. So that's less than half that of the RTX 4090, and a whole bunch, well, it's 120 watts less than the TDP of the RTX 4080. So we're dealing with a much more power frugal graphics card than anything that we've seen before in the RTX 40 series, and one that shares some similar specifications with the 3070. The 3070, I believe, had a wider memory bus, but it also has less memory. So we are looking at a card that is fairly cut down from the 4070 Ti, but then you would expect that because it costs a lot less as well. So what we'll be doing today is focusing on 3 resolutions and coming to some conclusions at the end once we've spoken about the benchmarks. First though, don't forget to like and comment on this video. Liking and commenting just helps punch me through that algorithm on YouTube and gets me noticed. And also don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you are notified when I upload a new video, because we're going to be doing lots of cool stuff with this card, some teardowns, and we are also going to be doing some mini-ITX system builds, as well as comparing this card with some other 4070s out there as well. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And once again, don't forget to like and comment on this video. I love hearing your thoughts on the 4070. Are you going to be buying one, or are you just kind of disgusted with the prices of graphics cards these days, or is $600, around £530, kind of just about within your remit, and are you upgrading from an older 30 series card or perhaps something in the 20 series or even earlier, and $600 is kind of just about affordable for you? Are you considering this graphics card, and which resolution are you going to be gaming at? What system are you putting it in? Love hearing your thoughts in the comments. So don't forget to comment below and like this video, and let's crack on with the test system and benchmarks. I used an Intel Core i9-12900K with 32GB of Kingston Fury 6400MHz DDR5 memory strapped to an NZXT N7Z790 motherboard, along with the latest drivers and Windows 11 updates. As the RTX 4070, given its price and performance, is likely to face all 3 popular resolutions, including 1080p, 1440p and 4K, I decided to also include 1080p benchmarks here, even though the price of this card is still fairly high at $600, but only with a select few cards, because you'd be a bit mad to be buying an RTX 4080 or 4090 to game at 1080p. So here in 1080p, I have included the RTX 4070, the RTX 3080 and RX 6800 XT, with both of those cards retailing for similar prices, and also the RTX 3070, which is of course its direct predecessor. First up is Forza Horizon 5, and this is a game that prefers AMD cards, I should say that from the outset, so it's no surprise to see the RX 6800 XT winning out here. However, the RTX 4070 did manage to beat the RTX 3080 and offer a decent amount of headroom over the RTX 3070. Stepping up to 1440p then, and the RTX 4070 steps well ahead of the RTX 3080 here. However, the RX 6800 XT was again out in front with a higher minimum 99th percentile and average frame rate. Next up at 4K then, and the RTX 4070 once again faster than the RTX 3070 in this game, and it manages to pull level finally with the RX 6800 XT, which did seem to struggle a little at this resolution. Next up is Halo Infinite, and in the campaign at 1080p, we see the RTX 4070 coming top, just ahead of the RTX 3080, and it should also be noted that it was well ahead of the RX 6800 XT at this resolution. Stepping up to 1440p then, and the RTX 4070 had a decent showing once again, and offering better performance than AMD's RX 6950 XT, never mind the RX 6800 XT, which languished at the bottom of the graph. The RX 4070 also offered a decent amount more performance on the minimum 99th percentile than the RTX 3080, even if the latter did manage a slightly higher average frame rate. At 4K then, and we have the RTX 4070 once again, slightly higher than the RTX 3080 on the minimum 99th percentile, but the older card managed a higher average frame rate. Again though, the RX 6800 XT languishing down at the bottom of the graph, with the RTX 4070 closely matching the more expensive RX 6950 XT. Next up is another 1080p test, and this time in Watch Dogs Legion we have the RTX 4070 sitting just behind the RTX 3080, while the RX 6800 XT was a fair bit behind on both the minimum and average frame rates. Stepping up to 1440p then, and the RTX 4070 slipping a little bit behind the RTX 3080, but once again offering a lot more performance than the RX 6800 XT, and even having the measure of the RX 6950 XT. Stepping up to 4K in Watch Dogs, and the RTX 4070 struggled here, only managing a minimum 99th percentile of 20 frames per second, which was a little stuttery, while the RTX 3080 managed a minimum 99th percentile of 25 frames per second. So a much healthier result there for the 3080. Meanwhile though, the RX 6800 XT languished well down in the last spot, which was a lot slower than the RTX 4070. Our final test in Watch Dogs at 4K is with DLSS enabled, and here the RTX 4070 saw a huge leap in performance, rising up to a minimum 99th percentile of 53 frames per second. So well over 100% more performance here, and we're looking at a result that resoundingly beats the RTX 3080. With DLSS enabled, it only managing 43 frames per second, so 10 frames per second deficit there, and obviously the RTX 4070 performing way ahead of the RX 6800 XT. In Far Cry at 1080p, we see the RTX 4070 at the top spot in the graph. However, overall, the RX 6800 XT was ahead overall thanks to a much higher average frame rate. That isn't surprising because this game does tend to favour AMD cards. However, the RTX 4070 was well ahead of the RTX 3080. Stepping up to 1440p then, and the RTX 4070, once again a decent result here, and one that was well ahead of the RTX 3080. In fact, it even beat the RTX 3090 and 3090 Ti in this test. So not far behind the RTX 4070 Ti either, although the RX 6800 XT are once again offering similar performance. Moving on to 4K then, and the RTX 4070 falling way back behind the RTX 3080 here, while the RX 6800 XT also seemed to struggle and only just about beat the new NVIDIA card. So if you want a game at high frame rates in this game at 4K, you'll need something akin to the RTX 4070 to be able to maintain a minimum of 80 frames per second or more. In Far Cry 6 at 4K with DXR reflections enabled, the RTX 4070 pretty much managed to match the RX 6800 XT and also offered a higher minimum 99th percentile than the RTX 3080, although the latter was slightly higher on the average frame rate. Going back to basics at 1080p then in Metro, and in the enhanced edition of Metro Exodus we have the RTX 4070 generally outperforming the RX 6800 XT. The latter did manage a slightly higher minimum 99th percentile, but a much lower average frame rate. Once again here though, the RTX 4070 are well ahead of the RTX 3080. Stepping up to 1440p at the RTX 4070, again offering slightly better performance than the RTX 3080 and noticeably better performance than the RX 6800 XT, with only the RTX 3080 Ti offering a slightly better performance, and the RTX 4070 Ti though offering a lot more performance for the extra $200. Stepping up to 4K then, and the RTX 4070 maintaining half-decent frame rates here with a minimum 99th percentile of 32 frames per second, which was faster than the RTX 3090, way faster than the RTX 3080, and significantly quicker than the RX 6800 XT, while the RTX 4070 Ti did manage to add 5 frames per second to its minimum 99th percentile here for a slightly smoother experience. Still in Metro Exodus at 4K, but with DLSS enabled now then, and we have the RTX 4070 with a much healthier minimum 99th percentile of 50 frames per second, although here it was leapfrogged by the RTX 3090. Still though, it offered a much better performance than the RTX 3080 and was a vast amount faster than the RX 6800 XT here. Moving on to Flight Simulator, and as usual at 1080p there seems to be other bottlenecks in the system because there wasn't really much of a difference between any of the cards that I tested at 1080p here, just a few frames in it, although slightly more on the average frame rate, with the RX 6800 XT sitting at the bottom of the graph, the RTX 4070 sitting at a close second behind the RTX 3080. The RTX 4070 was easily faster than the 6800 XT at 1440p and was generally faster than the RTX 3080 as well, even though the latter was slightly ahead on the minimum 99th percentile, the 4070 managing a much faster average frame rate. Finally then at 4K, and we have the RTX 4070 still managing some playable frame rates here, 47 on the minimum 99th percentile and 61 on the average. However, the RTX 3080 was pretty much a match for it here, while the RX 6800 XT was significantly slower. Also interesting was the RTX 4070 managing a much higher average frame rate than the RX 6900 XT, which could only manage 53 to the 4070's 61 frames per second. With DLSS enabled at 4K and Flight Simulator, we see the RTX 4070 leapfrog quite a few graphics cards in the graph, namely the RTX 3080 and 3080 Ti, and managing a similar frame rate to the RX 7900 XTX. However, I should note that my benchmark here focuses on landings and is at fairly low level, whereas if you're flying at slightly higher altitude, you'll probably see a slightly bigger difference between the graphics cards. However, the RX 4070 still offers a huge amount extra performance with DLSS enabled than the RX 6800 XT. This is both our final Flight Simulator test and our only DLSS 3.0 test that I've managed to get done in time for the launch today. However, it really does show the benefits of DLSS 3.0 and frame generation in Flight Simulator and a whole bunch of other games, but Flight Simulator especially, because you are quite often limited by other bottlenecks in the system and frame generation can get around that. So RTX 4070 with DLSS 3, you're looking at nearly double the frame rates. In fact, it's slightly more than double on the average frame rate, slightly less than 100% more on the minimum 99th percentile. But the benefit is that you leapfrog even the RX 7900 XTX and the stock speed result of the RTX 4090 here. So it's a fantastic result for the RTX 4070 if you're prepared to use frame generation and DLSS 3.0. Finally then is probably the most interesting result that I've got, which is the power consumption. And with a system power draw of 322 watts, that's a lot lower than the RTX 3070 and significantly lower than both the RX 6800 XT and RTX 3080. So the RTX 3080, for example, 465 watts, that's over 130 watts more than the RTX 4070. So combined with being a much smaller card, you're looking at a card that's less than 10 inches long, so it's going to be perfect for your mini-ITX more full factor PCs, especially if we see some smaller examples out there. You're also dealing with significantly lower power consumption and thermals as well. So in my test system, I rarely saw the temperature top 65 degrees C, even in games. So that's going to be great news if you're either dealing with a meager old power supply that can only dish out 500 or 600 watts. I think NVIDIA specifies either a 600 or 650 watt power supply, but you'll probably be able to get away with a little bit less than that. Also, with the thermals, you really don't need crazy cooling or a huge amount of space either. So what do we make of the RTX 4070 then? Well, I think it pretty much sits where we expected it to in terms of performance. Obviously, we haven't seen too many leaks over the last few weeks, except for the recent ones from NVIDIA and other places that put this card level or just ahead of the RTX 3080, and at the moment that seems to be a good thing because this card is slated to retail for around $600, whereas a brand new 3080 will cost you a lot more than that, probably $50 to $100, maybe even a bit more. So obviously everything depends on this card hitting shelves at those prices. You would probably go for the 4070 over the 3080 anyway, even if they were similar prices, because the 4070 is generally faster, especially if you're dialing up with DLSS and ray tracing and all that kind of stuff. And obviously this card is the only one of the two to support frame generation and DLSS 3 as well, and that is a huge boon in games such as Flight Simulator, which I'm a big fan of. It's a great way of getting much smoother frame rates in games that support frame generation and DLSS 3. In terms of pricing though, it's still not a cheap card, even though this is a mid-range model, really, considering you've got the 4070 Ti, the 3080, the 4080, and all the other ones above this card. It is definitely a mid-range card, but not so much a mid-range price. But then what, if anything, is actually cheaper at the moment? So what we're looking at is $600 for a mid-range card. It is $100 more expensive also than the RTX 3070. So things are kind of not staying the same and getting more performance for your money. You're spending more and getting more performance. So yeah, catch-22. So overall, I am pretty impressed with this card though, especially how compact it is, how power frugal it is, and how cool running it is as well. By far and away, the most attractive 40 series card that we've seen so far in terms of price, performance, for the money, and also how power frugal and easy it is to run. You're not going to need a crazy power supply for this at all, and obviously excellent for your small form factor mini-ITX rigs out there as well. Now, we do have some more cards in the pipeline, such as this one, the Palette RTX 4070 Dual, although this card is actually slightly longer than the 4070 Founders Edition that we've reviewed today. So hopefully we'll be seeing some smaller cards, especially from Palette, because then they're well known for making some very small models in the past. So we'll have to wait and see what it can do there. I'd like to thank NVIDIA for sending over the Founders Edition that we've reviewed today, and we've got a teardown video coming for that very, very soon, as well as some fitting and testing in some small form factor cases. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as usual, and thanks for watching today. See you soon.